All right, so we've looked at the various stages, and now what I want to talk a little bit about is the biology and environment and how they interact into what we call our sleep patterns. And you might have heard the whole kind of ideal of 8 hours of sleep. I even mentioned it just a minute ago when I went through the sleep patterns. And the reality is that the sleep patterns themselves are genetically influenced. For example, there are some people that are very light sleepers that let me get this in here. Genetics are a huge impact on this. But there are people that are light sleepers, very heavy sleepers who could fall asleep at a drop of a coin, literally. And so sleep patterns themselves are genetically influenced. And you see that time and time again in families even. The other aspect is that it also is culturally influenced, which gives some credence to some of what we talk about when we talk about biopsychosocial, that sleep patterns are also culturally influenced. And with the introduction of the modern light bulb, essentially the modern light bulb has had a huge impact on our culture in terms of how much sleep we actually get, and it has impacted going to bed when the sun goes down, because it's the only source of light, to working all night because we actually have sleep itself. So, but the biological impact is demonstrated in this diagram up here. So light begins to shine, and even with your eyes closed, we are sensitive. I don't know about you, but if during the summer months when the sun comes up earlier, you become aware of the fact that sun is streaming in your bedroom window, and so it tweaks the circadian clock by activating these light-sensitive retinal proteins in the back of the eye, and they trigger a larger process that moves from the eye, proteins, that move through this area in the brain that is referred to right here as the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which then affects the pineal gland that then impacts melatonin. And this is basically a naturally occurring hormone that increases in the evening and decreases. It goes down in the morning, which leads to our alertness and wakefulness. And as evening approaches, it increases in the evening hours. Now, obviously, light can have a huge impact on it. But as each of these diagrams suggest, when night begins to take effect and we're outside, then we have a reverse process where melatonin is produced and increased evening and sleepiness begins to take effect. And it doesn't mean that you can't fight through it. I think a lot of people actually do. They might get a little sleepy, take a quick nap, and off to the races they go with their melatonin and so forth. So the other aspect is that the effect of artificial light, and again, we can thank Thomas Edison, can affect this this cycle itself. And it can delay sleep, and so you can stay up a lot longer than your body is giving you indication that you should, and that interferes with that. But we can adjust our circadian rhythm all around this use of artificial light. I used to work in a steel mill during my college years, and essentially you had to do a swing shift, and you'd sometimes work day shift, you might work evening, night shift, which was usually 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the morning, or You might have day shift from 6 o'clock to 3, and then the evening guys would come in at 3 and go to 11, and then 11 to 7 or 6 o'clock in the morning the next day, or 7 o'clock in the morning the next day. Those played havoc on your circadian rhythm, partly because you didn't get into that rhythm on a regular basis long enough. Now, a lot of that has changed, but in many of the workplaces today that depend on 24-hour production. But that comes into play, and the one thing that I've seen students do as they play around with their sleep is that they go into sleep deprivation during the week and then try to catch up during the weekend, during the week, and then when they get to the weekend, they try to catch up by sleeping a lot and so forth. Unfortunately, by the time you get to the weekend, you're not going to be able to sleep at a regular basis long enough to be able to reestablish your circadian rhythm very well. And that's usually why by the time a semester gets to the close, students are really worn out, because their system has been running at such a high rate of speed and not have enough sleep.